So Phil guides the group to a quiet bend in the river, but the calm doesn't last for long. Because out of nowhere, a lone male hippo explodes out of the reeds and charges straight at them. Phil yells to everyone to split up. The hippo lunges, its four massive tusks spear straight through Phil's leg in 4 different places, and the strength of that bite is unreal.
Oh my God! We're really getting into this straight away, aren't we?
Yeah.
Like, the action is happening already.
I've set the scene. It's a nice day. Welcome to the Compendium, an assembly of fattening things.
Did you just say fattening things?
Fascinating things.
Take 2.
This won't make you put on weight if you listen. We are a weekly variety podcast that gives you just enough information to stand your ground at any social gathering.
We explore stories from the darker corners of true crime, the hidden gems of history, and the jaw-dropping deeds of extraordinary people.
I'm Adam Cox, your ringmaster for this episode.
And I'm Kyle Risi, your clown psychologist for this week's episode.
Because clowns need therapy too?
Because clowns cry too. Why do you think clowns always paint that little tear under their eye? It's because they're sad. They are so depressed by constantly getting pie shoved in their face. So I am literally a DEI hire, and I'm here to make sure that the well-being of our clowns is up there. Like, no clown can be left behind.
Because clowns have feelings too.
Clowns have feelings too. 100%. Yeah, that's me today. Clown psychologist.
Okay. I don't know if your job's safe, to be honest.
Oh, yeah, with the way everything that's going on in America.
Yeah, that's a whole other situation. Anyway, before we dive in, a quick heads up for all you lovely freaks out there. Remember, signing up to our Patreon as a free member will get you early access to next week's episode an entire 7 days before anyone else. And like I said, it's completely free.
But if you want even more, consider becoming a certified freak for a small monthly subscription. That will unlock all of our unreleased episodes up to 6 weeks earlier. Brand new, never heard before, straight off the press.
And we're expanding our Patreon benefits even further. Now, you can access all of our vintage Compendium episodes from Season 1. These are the episodes from back when we were just starting out and the ones that really made you fall in love with the show.
When we were still a bit amateur.
Yeah, not necessarily the best quality.
But they are incredible stories.
Yes.
There are some amazing episodes in their collection, like the Beanie Baby Bubble of the 1990s, told from the perspective of the women that were involved in that saga. Or the infamous Jonestown Massacre, where Jim Jones forced his followers to drink cyanide-laced Kool-Aid, which is where the saying, drink the Kool-Aid, comes from. And as we discovered during that episode, it was actually Flavor Aid. So a lucky escape for them, wouldn't you say?
I would. There's just so much content for you to get stuck into, and we'll be adding even more exclusive episodes for Patreon members as the weeks go on. So signing up for as little as $3 is literally the best way to support the show.
And depending on the tier that you choose, we've got some exclusive merch to send your way absolutely free. We have this beautifully machine-lathe exclusive Compendium keychain in gold, solid gold, so we can always be with you, sitting right there alongside your crotch, wherever you go.
Solid gold as well?
Solid gold, 100%. They guaranteed it. From China, they said, solid gold. And I was like, what, for £6? And they were like, yep. And I was like, I'll take 50 of them. And by the way, this isn't a beautiful keychain from some crappy merch company.
No, it isn't a beautiful keychain. You're right.
Hey!
That's what it sounded like.
This is literally the love child of my negotiation skills with a Chinese national who could not speak English, but we persevered through, we worked together, and we developed something beautiful. Can you hear that? That's it. That's it. That can be yours. And of course, the best thing is it won't cost you a dime.
This is a brand new benefit for our certified Freak tier members as a special thank you for supporting us all these months. If you're an existing member, just send us a DM with your address and we'll ship one straight out to you no matter where you are in the world.
And supporting the Compendium through Patreon is truly the best way to show your love. and you'll get something special in return. So keep an eye out because we'll also be launching even more goodies as the months come.
And while you're at it, don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast app and leave us a review. Your support really helps us reach even more people like you who love a good tale of the unexpected.
And guys, I promise you, when we ask you guys to send us reviews, you really deliver. We have some of the most inspirational, heartwarming reviews that you send through via our website, and we just love it. And it's not just on the website. You can also review us on Apple or leave us a comment on Spotify. So we had a brilliant review just left a couple of days ago, and it's from a brand new listener who says, "Oh my Lord, I am a Canadian listener, and let me tell you, I commute 1 hour plus each way for work every day and first listened to your podcast on Gabby Petito. The second episode I listened to was the Trashman yacht sinking, and I was hooked. Your personalities, sense of humor, and the way you deliver these podcasts is unmatched. Please keep making more of these."
Oh, that's a really nice one.
Those are the types of reviews we always get.
We are unmatched, Kyle.
We're unmatched. What have you got?
So I have a review here from Corgi Wendy. They say, "I love the perfect mix of Cockney and blue blood accent of the hosts.
What?
And their humor and style is also as great. It's quirky, plus a wonderfully dark humor. It's a must listen."
Who is Cockney and who is blue blood?
I don't
I'm
know.
not even Cockney.
But then,
Neither are you.
What is blue blood?
I think it means fancy.
Oh.
Fancy pants.
Oh, well, then that's definitely me.
So I'm the Cockney one.
It feels right, Kyle.
I am South African, and that is insulting to South Africans.
Blue blood accent. I've never heard of that before. Does it just mean like well-to-do and everything like that?
I think so. What do they call it? Perceived Queen's English?
I mean, if you knew who I was, I'm more like Hyacinth Bouquet.
What? You're an old lady.
No, in terms of like, I make out like I'm posh.
Oh,
but
right.
really, if you've met my family, then no,
I've
not
met
at
your
all.
family.
Okay, so enough of the housekeeping because Kyle, today we're diving into an assembly of bad decisions, river monsters, and one paddle that might have been blessed by the gods.
Ooh. Oh, God. I have no idea what this could be about.
Today we're heading deep into the Zambezi Valley where two separate tourist groups, just days and 200 kilometers apart, had their peaceful African getaway torn apart by the most unlikely terror.
Wow. So we are revisiting the Great Plains of South Africa.
We are.
I knew it. I've come home. I'm here.
You're going to like this one. But this particular terror, Kyle, is about hippos.
Yeah, those motherfuckers are dangerous, man.
Yeah, because what followed was a chain of events so wild, so brutal, and so bizarrely connected, it honestly sounds made up. But the thing is, it's not.
It's all true. 100%.
All true.
Did you do some research?
I did a little bit of research, yes. This is the story of the terror on the Zambezi of 1994.
Wow. Oh, and going back to the best era ever.
Now, you alluded to hippos being dangerous because what can you tell me about hippos?
So I've heard that they're extremely aggressive, they're extremely territorial, and they will snap you like a fucking match.
That's the thing.
But they also are impartial to a bit of melon. So they're cute, but I don't want to touch them.
Yeah, that's pretty much all my notes that I've got here. Yeah. Cute, melon, a little bit dangerous. Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think people misunderstand them as being these kind of big, goofy creatures. They're not that dangerous unless you read into and find about what actually they get up to.
I'm well informed. I'm South African. I know the dangers of hippopotamuses.
Yeah, because they'll defend their territory with a frightening force, both in the water and on land, and they have the body count to prove it. Hippos
You
kill...
make it sound like they're promiscuous.
Promiscuous?
Yeah, like, what's your body count?
That's a different kind of counting, I think.
Okay.
Hippos kill more people in Africa every year than lions, elephants, and rhinos combined.
Really?
We're talking hundreds of deaths annually.
Wow. But surely people should understand the dangers and not be approaching them. They're not exactly the types of animals that will go stalking human beings. So people are probably putting themselves in the paths of danger here.
Yeah, you're right, because male hippos, they guard their territory like some kind of like mob boss. And if you look at invading their sort of stretch of land or water, then they'll just charge at you. Whereas females, like a lot of animals, they're just incredibly protective of their young. So again, if you get near her calf, she is going to hunt you down.
Yeah, like so many females. Don't mess with the babies, man.
And they're not strictly herbivores either. Hippos are primarily grazers, But they have been known to scavenge or even hunt other animals on rare occasions.
And apparently kill 100 humans a year.
And lastly, did you know a hippo's jaw can open nearly 180 degrees and their canines can grow over a foot long? So that means they can snap a watermelon or even a boat in two.
Yeah, but they're not snapping down on it with their canines.
Not just that, but that's what they pierce the structure or whatever,
Sure.
and then they just clamp down with their
How
jaw.
do they even close their mouth? Because it's not like their canines poke out from the sides like a saber tooth or anything. Like when they close their mouths, you don't see that tooth until they literally open their mouth. So where is that fucking thing going?
Does it retract? It's like one of those kind of things that kind of goes, you know, when you like push it against your finger.
Like Wolverine.
Oh, yeah.
If it did retract like one of those little stabby pens that you would get when you were a kid, then the thing is, though, that would do no damage. It'd be like, they're just for show, like your muscles.
Hey, let's move on.
But it's true.
So yeah, enough hippo facts for now, but I think it sets the scene that hippos aren't these cuddly, bumbling creatures we've been led to believe. They're fast, they're aggressive, they're fiercely territorial, and packing one of the strongest bites in the animal kingdom. And when you throw human encroachment into the mix, that's how you end up with the story I'm about to tell you. Hence the terror on the Zambezi of 1994.
Damn.
So it's Easter Sunday, April 1994. A small group of German tourists were out on a canoe.
Oh, it's always the Germans commandeering kind of sun lounges, putting their towels on there. Yeah, I'm not surprised by this. I'm not. Sorry, not sorry.
This small group of German tourists were on a canoe tour on the Zambezi River in southern Africa. It was one of those picture-perfect days, the sun shining, the water sparkling, and the landscape is beautiful. They were surrounded by wildlife. There's elephants, there's buffalo, and of course hippos everywhere they looked. Leading that tour was a guy called Phil Longden. Now, Phil wasn't just a guide. He was built like an Olympian. He had spent years on the river. He loved the wild, the sun, and even the grumpy old dagger boys, which are these old, solitary buffalo bulls who glared at him through the island reeds. This was home to him. He loved being in like nature, surrounded by
Very
this.
poetic.
I know. I'm building a picture.
Yeah, no, you are. You do a good job. So what, these are just old buffalo that are just roaming around the savannah or wherever, or the banks of the Zambezi River. And they're just like the old boys. Like, we're retired and we're just living out our dream. We put in the hours.
Yeah, we're just going to sit here and watch these German tourists canoe on through.
Got it. Vivid picture.
So Phil guides the group to a quiet bend in the river and tells them to line their canoes up side by side. Then he had them do something called a leg over, basically where you put one foot in the canoe to your left and the other foot in the canoe to your right, connecting everyone into a floating raft, if you will.
Oh, yeah, we've done that before. So, like, I put my leg over onto the other canoe and it keeps us all joined together.
So no one has to paddle. You can just drift down the river together, like taking in the sights.
Yeah, we've done that before, but it was only because we were all getting really drunk on these canoes and we didn't want to drift away from each other. Do you remember that? At Sarah's hen do?
Oh, yeah. I was like, when did I? I was probably because I was drunk. So this group of tourists, they're connected. They're just taking in the sights, soaking up the calm. But the calm doesn't last for long because out of nowhere, a lone male hippo explodes out of the reeds from the riverbank and charges straight at them. Phil yells to everyone to split up. He kicks away the canoe next to him and he starts to pull his leg back into his own boat. But it wasn't quick enough because that hippo lunges and clamps onto his leg. Its four massive tusks spear straight through Phil's leg in 4 different places, and the strength of that bite is unreal.
Wow. Okay. So first of all, we're really getting into this straight away, aren't we?
Yeah.
Like the action is happening already.
I've set the scene. It's a nice day. Now, chaos.
Wow. Okay. So this hippopotamus has just charged from the banks into the water and gone, get away from my babies.
Well, it's a male hippo, and it's just like, you're on my territory. Get out.
Male hippos can also be good parents, you know. They can also be mindful of their calves. Get away from my babies.
I think this one's just territorial.
Fine.
So this hippo drags Phil into the water and starts thrashing him around like a rag doll. The other tourists could only just sit there helpless, watching the water around them turn red as the hippo tries to shake Phil loose from its tusks. Phil's stuck. He's literally skewered on the hippo's teeth.
Eesh.
After what feels like an eternity, Phil finally manages to break free. Well, part of him did. His leg, not so much. It's shredded, there's torn muscle, there's crushed bone, the top half is hanging on by threads.
Oh my God. So it's amputated.
It's just flopping around, if you will.
So amputated.
It's still attached, but just floppy.
Is it attached by the bone, Adam?
I don't know about that. It's crushed. Maybe loosely. Phil looks at it and he instantly knew that his life is about to change forever. That hippo, meanwhile, just leaves. After all this carnage, he just wanders back into the reeds and sets off.
So he's, I made a mistake. They're not a threat.
Yeah, I guess.
Tasty, but not a threat.
The tourists manage to pull Phil out of the water. He's still breathing, which is obviously a relief. But when they see the state of his leg, some of them actually gag. It's that bad.
Oh, God.
And here's the real problem. They're deep in the Zambezi Valley, miles from any real help. There's no proper first aid supplies. There's no painkillers on board, just a shredded leg, and they're in the middle of nowhere.
What they need is a good local, because a local will teach them how they can kind of like chew up some kind of weird leaf from a tree and spit it out and then use it as some kind of ointment on the leg. And that will just repair that up straight away.
I don't think it's going to glue his leg back together.
You don't know that.
It's not like, witchcraft, a medicine man or anything out there that's going to be able to heal him completely.
That's exactly what it's like. You can't speak for my culture.
Oh, God.
This is exactly what would happen.
Name 5 times this happened to you.
Time 1, time 2, time 3, time 4, and time 5.
Okay, you proved me wrong there. So Phil's alive, but for now, it's going to be a very long way back. In the chaos, they didn't notice one thing drifting quietly away. Phil's blue paddle slowly floating downstream. Now, remember that blue paddle because it might just come in handy later.
Does he need the paddle? Because there's like 12 other Germans there. Surely they haven't also lost their paddles.
No, they've got their paddles, but Phil's paddle, it's lost downstream.
Okay.
Getting Phil to a hospital was a race against time. The group paddled like their lives depended on it, which, to be fair, Phil's life did depend on it. They made their way to shore, but were unsuccessful in finding help first. So they have to go back to Zambia, where eventually they are picked up and taken to a camp. Phil is flown to a hospital, but bad news for him is it looks like gangrene has already set in. It's not looking good for Phil.
I see.
So meanwhile, 2 days later, after Phil's attack, we are on the same river, but this time around 125 miles downstream. Another group of holidaymakers are enjoying their time on the Zambezi. There was Alistair, his best mate Arthur, Arthur's wife Faye, and Faye's parents Brenda and Clive. So 2 families blended together on what was meant to be a relaxing getaway into the African wilderness. I don't know if an African wilderness getaway is that relaxing.
It depends how you're doing it, right? Because typically when you go on like an African safari, you get to stay in these beautiful kind of like Rindavo lodges with thatched roofs, maybe sometimes high up in the trees or whatever. And like you get to chill, you sit on the balcony, look at the beautiful scene. And then like in the morning, like really early at 5 a.m., you then go out on your safari and you might do like a few excursions. But you're not camping out there. Like you are staying like probably at a nice resort. Remember when we went to South Africa? We weren't out in the Kruger National Park just living in the field where lions can come up and sniff us.
I will tell you my memory of this.
Oh, God.
Number 1, it was bloody hot.
Yeah.
Unbearably hot at some points.
Wasn't at one point, because we had to go out at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that became very apparent as soon as 8 o'clock rolled around when we were driving on the back of this truck and then it stopped. And then as it stopped, just the hot air just hit you like a wall, didn't it? And we're like shouting at the man, keep going, keep driving.
It was so hot. So yeah, number 1, very hot. Number 2, I remember the bush babies that attacked the roof that night whilst we were sleeping, keeping us up.
It was relentless.
Number 3, I had to have a mosquito net around me because of this fear of getting malaria.
Yeah.
Number 4, when we went like looking at lions, we were in cages. I don't think it's that relaxing.
That's true. And then the horror stories that we heard about some of those lions. This guy, who was apparently some kind of prince from some northern African country, was told that in order for his rite of passage to become the next king or the next prince or whatever, he had to walk with lions because that's what the prophecy said. So he came all the way down to South Africa to this protected, safe, apparently, lion reserve. And he was driving through his car and he's like, okay, this is my opportunity. I'm going to walk with the lions. And bam, they just took him and they killed him. They ripped him to shreds. Do you remember my dad telling us that story?
I do, yeah.
And that was all over the papers that year.
Yeah. And so this is exactly my point.
Yeah. And this is another reason why when you're on an African safari, you're not just in the bush in a tent somewhere. Like you are in a resort that's protected with armed guards.
Of course, yeah. But anyway, so this family, yeah, they're having this relaxing time.
On an excursion.
It's their last full day on the river, and the guys were set on squeezing in just one final afternoon of fishing and maybe a few sneaky beers. Brenda, however, wasn't keen. She didn't like being on the water, and I don't know why she came on this trip in the first place, but anyway.
She's there for the mojitos back at the lodge.
Yeah, I think she's looking for some quiet time. She said 4 days of camping with the boys. She just wants to chill, have a few beers back by the riverside, whatever.
But she's roped in. It's her last day, so she's, a few more hours and we'll be back in my mosquito net with the bush babies on the
Exactly,
on the roof.
Yeah. But spoiler alert, Brenda knew best and they should have listened to her that day. The guys, however, twisted Brenda's arm and convinced her to come along. They all piled into a motorboat and headed upstream, searching for a picturesque spot to fish, relax and chill with a few drinks. It was another postcard perfect day, warm sun, clear water and wildlife everywhere. Even Brenda, to her surprise, was enjoying herself. She was landing fish like a pro and finally relaxing into that moment.
So she changed her tune.
But that peaceful moment, it didn't last because out of nowhere,
a hippo.
Yes. Bam, hits the boat and with this force of a wrecking ball.
Is this the same damn hippo going on a rampage?
We don't know if it's the same hippo. It's 125 miles or kilometers downstream.
Adam, when you say you don't know if it's the same hippo, and then you say 125 miles, it's almost guaranteed it's not the same hippo.
Unless he catches a ride.
This hippo's on a rampage.
Anyway, there is another hippo at large that's like wreaking havoc. The front end of their boat shoots straight up into the air. It's almost vertical, like it's about to flip over. And if you're wondering just how big this hippo was, it looked like it weighed maybe 3,000 kilos. That's like a small car barreling into you. So Clive and Brenda were thrown off the boat in opposite directions while the other three were tossed towards the back. The boat crashes down onto the water and then the hippo again hits the boat and it flips completely over.
Oh, God.
Now, all 5 of them are in the water with a furious hippo nearby.
Yeah, poor Brenda hates being in the water.
She hates being on the water.
Okay, but being in the water, I'm in the water with this damn hippo who's on a rampage. Yeah, it's fine. It's going to be fine.
Naturally, the 5 of them are expecting the worst. They're expected to be, attacked by the hippo again. There's going to be limbs flying. There's going to be water thrashing around. But no, just like the attack 2 days earlier, the hippo seems to decide its work here is done, mission accomplished, and off it went.
Oh my God, now I'm thinking this is an MO of this one hippo.
Exactly.
Comes in, does a rampage, and then it's like, done here.
Maybe it just doesn't like boats.
Do you think? It just can't be the same hippo, right?
No, probably not.
It's just a thing that hippos do. They're very volatile in their mood. They're like, crazy. And then they're like, fine.
I've attacked. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Have you seen how massive I am? Only short bursts of energy, man.
While the hippo may have gone, the dangers were far from over for these 5 people. The first problem was don't drown. And since the boat was upside down and half submerged, climbing back into it wasn't an option. Brenda and Clive were in serious trouble because neither of them were strong swimmers, and because they hadn't bothered with life jackets, panic sets in fast. Brenda starts flailing around trying to stay afloat, and in her frenzy, she latches onto the nearest thing she could find. Mm-hmm. That was her daughter, Faye.
Oh no, poor Faye.
And by latched onto, I mean she tries to climb on top of Faye to keep herself above water. Obviously, Brenda is doing the best to survive, and she doesn't realize she's risking her daughter's life at this point, even if it means dragging someone else under.
And her daughter, of all things. If you really want to test if you're a good mum, this is how you do it. You're like, okay, so I'm in a life and death situation. Who do I protect, myself or my daughter?
I don't think Brenda's thinking at this point.
I want my damn mojito.
Faye is gasping, she's coughing, she's spluttering, and she actually yells out, "Mum, you're pushing me down." And Brenda, she just panics. She's in full survival mode. But once Faye manages to catch her breath and manages to speak and calms her mum down, thankfully, Brenda stops trying to drown her own daughter.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the current had pulled the 3 of them, Arthur, Faye, and Brenda, hundreds of meters downstream. Clive and Alistair, on the other hand, had managed to cling to the wreckage of the boat, which has now flipped over and half sunk at a weird angle. The back end with the motorhead sunk into the riverbed, leaving the front end jutting out of the water.
Oh, so it's stuck, is it?
Yeah, and so there's no chance that they can flip it back over.
Oh, no.
So Clive and Alistair, they're basically stranded, watching helpless as the others drift further and further away. But then by some pure luck, Arthur, Faye and Brenda floats right onto a submerged sandbar in the middle of the river. They had no idea it was there, but thankfully some luck was on their side. And they could stand pretty easy. And at that point, the water is really shallow. It's ankle deep at its highest point.
Okay.
Arthur had taken in a lot of water and starts to vomit. And once he's finished doing that, they work out they could swim to shore, but they didn't really know the exact width of the river at that point, because I believe the Zambezi River can be over 1 kilometre in width.
Wow. And what's the conditions of this river? I mean, if a boat can come along, then I'm assuming at this moment in time it's not rapids or anything, because a boat's managed to sail to this area.
Yeah, a boat can sail, fine. But the thing is, though, even if you're a good swimmer, the river's current was so treacherous. The Zambezi is famous for its unpredictable and deceptively strong current. So there's whirlpools that have been known to pull people under, even if you're a strong swimmer.
Scary, man. Scary. So probably the best thing for them to do is just stay on the side of that sandbar and hope that someone comes and rescues them.
Yeah, that's one thing that they could do. But the thing is, whilst they're no longer drowning, there are other animals that inhabit this water.
Oh, piranhas.
No, crocodiles.
Oh, shit, crocodiles.
The river is teeming with them. So the group had already spotted a few earlier, which made their current situation even more unsettling. But to be fair, Alistair wasn't exactly clueless when it came to the wilderness. He worked as a safari guide and a hunter, and Arthur had actually worked with him for a while, so they aren't amateurs, but they just underestimated how unpredictable the hippos could be.
Sure, and I got the sense that he was probably a little bit more experienced because they're out there on a boat and they don't have a guide like the Germans did. So obviously to go out in the wilderness like that, you probably need to know what you're doing.
Exactly, yeah. And if you're a hunter, you know, you're going to be taking on animals at some point or other. So they're stuck, and 3 of them are standing ankle deep on the sandbar, and 200 meters away, Alistair and Clive are clinging on to the wrecked boat. Crocodiles are in the water, hippos are somewhere nearby, but there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere that they can just easily get out of this situation.
So why can't they call for help?
They're completely off the grid. No one knew where they were.
They've got no walkie-talkies or cell net. This is 1994, so there's no cell phones or anything like that.
Yeah, and they hadn't really told anyone where they were going. No one knew their route, their plans.
Mistake number 1. Always tell someone where you're going. Like a horror movie.
So all they can do is just hope and pray that someone might happen to pass by that day. But hours go by.
That bushman with the ointment. Hey, if the hippopotamus can travel 125 miles...
which we don't know for a fact.
And so can this bushman.
Yeah. So a few hours go by under the blistering sun and there's no sign of help. Alistair realizes that just waiting probably isn't going to cut it. It was mid-afternoon and the odds of someone showing up before nightfall was shrinking fast.
Okay, so what you're basically saying is they have to swim across.
Yeah, they've got no other option, that someone is going to have to go and get help.
Send Faye.
Yeah, Brenda's not going to go, is she?
She's drunk.
Alistair was still on the wrecked boat with Clive when he noticed the water level rising. Slowly but steadily, the sandbar was disappearing beneath their feet as well. A dam upstream must have opened up because the water was creeping higher and higher, already up to their calves. And if they stayed put, they were going to be swept away or worse, become crocodile bait.
Oh, God.
So Alistair makes a call. He's going to swim to shore and try and find help. Now, Alistair, bless him, he figures his life is the least valuable because he's single, whereas the others are married or have kids.
I think he needs to sit down with Brenda.
Why?
She tried to drown Faye!
Yeah, but I guess he thinks that if someone was going to lose their life or whatever, his life is worth less, which is kind of admirable. But I feel bad. Just because you're single doesn't mean to say that your life isn't worth anything.
Sure, that's true.
So Alistair steps up. The others try to talk him out of it. And I do wonder how much, of course. If it was more like, no, don't go, Alistair, while they're pushing him off the boat. But either way.
Are you sure? Oh, okay. If you insist.
It sounds like they did have genuine concern, of course. But I guess they thought it was quite unlikely for him to make it to the riverbank.
Oh, God.
But Alistair's not having any of it. He figures waiting was a death sentence. The water's going to keep rising. And once the sun is set and the crocodiles wake up from basking in the sun on the shore, they're going to come in and start nibbling at them. So Alistair slips into the water, quiet as possible, and starts swimming towards the shore. The current is brutal though, and it's dragging him further downstream with every stroke. The others watch, holding their breath as he drifts further and further away. Then he disappears completely from view. They had no idea if he's made it to the river bank or if something in the river had claimed him.
Oh, God. Something's claimed him.
No, he makes it.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, he drifts along just enough and finds a shallow spot where he could finally put his feet down. Mm-hmm. And now he just had to figure out how to get help before the others ran out of time.
Sure.
But before he could even think about getting help, he spots a pair of beady eyes peeking just above the waterline.
That'll be the croc.
At this point, I bet he wished he had listened to Brenda and not gone on that boat trip that day.
I wish I sent Brenda.
For a few tense seconds, it was a full-on staring contest. Alistair versus a 3-meter crocodile slowly gliding towards him.
Oh no, and he's just staring at it. Why is he not running?
In that moment, Alistair has a choice. Swim like hell or go on the attack. He chooses full-on attack.
Shut up. A crocodile? These things are massive.
Alistair screams loudly and lunges towards the crocodile and went absolutely feral, hoping that by acting and shouting and being a complete maniac, he'd somehow scare it off. Acting real big and dominant to show that the crocodile who's boss and that Alistair was the predator of the water. It makes sense. And for a second, it seems to work.
Yeah. In fact, I think that's a really good strategy. If you are faced with the possibility of being eaten by a wild animal like a bear, a crocodile, a hippopotamus, if you just pretend that you're absolutely fucking sane, like that you are infected with syphilis, that animal will be like, yeah, if I eat that, that's going to happen to me.
Yeah, I don't want that. That's going to upset my stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess maybe Alistair thinks that whatever he's doing, it's working. The crocodile slips under the water. Alistair checks the coast is clear. He shoves his face beneath the water's surface, scanning the murky water for any movement, but the croc had disappeared. However, the crocodile is just lulling Alistair into a trap. And in doing so, it strikes first, clamping down on one of Alistair's legs. But at that exact same moment, Alistair, like some kind of martial arts expert, throws a punch at its head, a direct hit. The croc's teeth barely sinks in before it lets go.
Wow.
Then the crocodile lunges again, biting into his left hand. And again, Alistair responds with a punch to the side of its head, and the croc releases him. And so for a brief moment, Alistair's thinking, holy crap, I'm winning. I just won a fist fight with a crocodile.
Yeah, I better put this on my LinkedIn.
Wait until the boys hear about this. But the crocodile comes back with a vengeance, locking its jaws around most of Alistair's right arm, and then the death roll. So if you're not familiar what the death roll is, it's exactly as it sounds. The croc grabs hold of its prey and then spins violently to try and dismember it or drown it, whatever happens first.
Wow. Horrifying. Because sometimes crocs will death roll each other. So they'll be like all basking together, and then one croc's arm will be close to another croc's mouth, and that croc will just grab that one's arm and just do a death roll. And it basically spins around and rips the other croc's arm off. Amazingly, the croc just sits there. Oh, my arm's gone. Okay.
I was going to use that.
Yeah. Really, Steve?
What'd I do to you?
Yeah. Horrendous tactical movement from a crocodile, man.
Yeah. But Alistair, because he is a hunter and a safari guide or whatever, he instinctively locks his legs around the croc's torso.
He's going to do a death roll on him.
It's a move that he describes as the scissor grip. The way he describes it is that it allowed him to roll with the crocodile.
Oh, I see. Clever.
So he's not going to be like...
So he's not being ripped against it.
Yeah, exactly.
In a way. He's going to go with it.
Roll with the crocodile.
We're doing the tango.
He is shocked, however, by how powerful the animal was, because this is his first death roll. And he,
his first death roll.
His first death roll. It's how... Yeah, this is pretty powerful. And the crocodile is 7 feet long, and he's strong enough to tear Alistair into two. Then, while holding on for his dear life, he started cycling through every anti-crocodile tactic he'd ever heard of. Because his experience as a safari guide had kicked in. He knew that, what can I do to get myself out of this?
Okay, so there's a playbook out there, right? Someone's published a book.
A playbook, if you will, yeah. So do you have any ideas what Alistair did next? What would you do in this scenario?
So you treat a crocodile like you would treat a pit bull. Once they lock onto your arm or whatever it is. You just stick your finger right up their bum. And then they're instantly like, ah! Especially if they're like really, really one of those like real cisgendered males. There's like, no homo, man, no homo. Like really anti-gay. They're like, ah, don't tell us gay.
Okay, so that's what you would do.
Yeah.
That's not what Alistair does.
What does he do?
The thing is, if you're in a fight with a guy and you're unlikely to win, what do you go for? Eye or balls?
The thing is though, crocodile's balls are inside his clacoa.
Yeah.
So they're tucked away.
You're not going to go for the balls, are you?
No, you're going to go for the eyeballs.
Exactly.
So what does he do? Like, he just like grabs its face and like sticks his thumbs right into its eyeballs.
Yeah, he shoves his thumb into the croc's eye socket as hard as he could, and he pushes so deep that he actually dislocates his thumb.
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah.
Gross.
The pain apparently is incredible, and yet it's...
Well, for who?
Well, for Alistair. It's
Okay.
like bloody hell.
Don't speak for the crocodile.
And it doesn't seem to have any effect on the crocodile whatsoever. It's totally unbothered.
He's like, yeah, that's at least not my balls.
Yeah, and poor Alistair is hurt himself way more than he hurt the actual crocodile.
Mm-hmm.
He tries another trick that's worked for some people in the past, and that's grabbing the crocodile's fingers and bends them back until they break. That doesn't work either.
I just have this image of him like... So he does a tactic that has worked for others. He breaks his fingers. Has he got his phone on him and he's like scrolling through Reddit and going, oh, what could I do? Oh, this seems to have worked. Let me try that. Break his fingers.
I think he knows other safari guides. He's probably heard stories and stuff like that.
Yeah, but no one memorizes these things. Like you buy the book and then you just have it on hand, or you use Reddit. No one actually reads these things until they need
This is 1994.
Fair enough. And does that work?
No, it doesn't work.
Then why say it?
He's going through all these different tactics. So he's thinking, I'm out of options, until he remembers one last tactic.
Okay.
He shoves his left hand, the injured one, deep into the crocodile's throat, like all the way down.
Going to play that little dangly thing swinging at the back of his throat.
I don't know if it's the dangly thing, but it is right near the back of the throat. And that must have been pretty scary, sticking your hand down a crocodile through choice. And he presses down on this flap of skin that covers the airway to stop the water from getting into its lungs when the crocodile is underwater, so it can open its mouth and not drown, essentially.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And so he does that, and by pressing it down, he lets water into the crocodile to drown it, essentially.
Oh, I see.
And it works. The crocodile freaks out, it lets go, and it swims off.
Wow. Okay, so he did it.
He was able to do all this while underwater, spinning through a death roll and trying not to pass out from his mangled arm.
Newfound respect.
This guy is a legend.
Yeah, 100%.
Once the croc swims off, Alistair somehow manages to crawl out of the river and onto the bank. And he got as far from the water as he could and then collapses. He is wrecked. His arm is destroyed. There's bones that have been shattered in multiple places. His elbow and shoulder are completely dislocated. It's hanging on there, barely attached. And he's got bite marks on his leg and his hand. And it doesn't actually, you can't feel any of it yet because the adrenaline is still pumping through him.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And so
it's going to be painful in a minute.
Exactly. So the first thing he does is, because the guys, they wouldn't have seen any of this because he was out of sight. He yells out, I just got attacked by a crocodile. And they're like, oh my God. But probably not exactly shocked because it is the Zambezi River. They're like, of course you would.
Oh no. Oh, we shouldn't have sent you.
Brenda's probably there like, I told you we shouldn't have come on today's trip.
Classic Brenda.
So now Alistair knew what he had to do. He wasn't in good shape, but he needed to stop the bleeding. He also knew that the crocodile's mouths were septic, full of parasites and bacteria. And if he didn't clean the wounds fast, it wasn't just blood loss that would kill him, it'd be the infection.
Yeah.
So he crawls back into a shallow pool of water and washes his arm as best as he could, knowing it wasn't sterile. Then he tears off part of his shirt and managed to rig up a makeshift tourniquet, which is...
Tourniquet, wow. What a word.
And that helps to cut off the blood supply flowing through his...
Yes, when we did the Michael Alec episode, he had a tourniquet that he would use to kind of like get the vein to pop out. So that's what he's doing. He's trying to stop the blood flow from like oozing out.
Exactly. Slow that blood down. It would buy him a bit more time. But now he faced the next problem. How are you going to get help? And so the nearest fishing camp was about 3 or 4 miles away.
Oh, that's not so bad.
That's still going to take you an hour and a half, and he's injured.
Yeah, that's true, actually. You better get a move on.
He starts walking, but just after a few steps, that adrenaline is now wearing off. he starts to feel dizzy and lightheaded, and then he could feel his injuries taking over his whole body.
Mm-hmm.
Alistair was also a heavy smoker and a heavy drinker, so he's not exactly...
So he's gagging for a fag.
He isn't in peak condition. It was tough enough to survive a crocodile attack, but recovering from it, that's a different story. He gave in and sat down under a tree, and he figured he'd try to pull himself together for a few minutes before pushing on. Meanwhile, back on the river, Clive was facing his own problem because that water level was still rising and fast. The upturned boat he was sitting on is becoming less and less stable, and it was only a matter of time before it either drifted away or flipped completely over, taking Clive with it. So reluctantly, Clive decided he couldn't wait anymore. He needed to swim to the sandbar where the others were waiting. He ruled out trying to get to the shore because he didn't think he'd be able to survive like Alistair did. And so the sandbar was closer and a less of a gamble. Here's the issue though, Clive is not a strong swimmer. In fact, he was pretty terrible at it. And everyone knew it, but sitting on the boat, there was no longer an option. He lowers himself into the water and starts dog paddling towards the others, fighting against the current the best as he could the whole entire time. His wife, his daughter, and son-in-law could only watch, tense and helpless, as Clive struggled towards them. Every ripple in the water looked suspicious. Every branch, every flash of sunlight on the surface. Their brains were thinking, oh my God, is that another crocodile? Any second now, he could be yanked under the water.
Oh, tense.
For context, he only had to swim about 200 meters, so it's not a crazy amount, but in these conditions, that current is really strong. But somehow, Clive makes it, and it's a small win, finally, for them. There's a brief and shaky celebration when Clive climbs onto the sandbar, but that relief doesn't last long because that water is still rising, and they have no idea how they're going to get out and if Alistair is even alive. Meanwhile, Alistair was still out there, sitting under a tree, trying to regain some strength. But resting wasn't exactly easy because it turns out the smell of blood is a bit of a beacon for trouble.
Oh, it's an aphrodisiac.
That's definitely not an aphrodisiac. Of course, it's not just about ants. Alistair knew there were other things coming for him.
Ooh, hyenas and tigers.
And, lions.
Lions!
The real hunters would be smelling his blood from miles away. And so sitting there, bleeding in the middle of the African bush, just waiting for some animal to catch a scent and have him for dinner.
Okay, this is not looking good.
No. And so now feels like a perfect time to take a break. And when we come back, something almost like a miracle is going to happen to help save the day.
I was just thinking, how the hell are they going to get out of this?
Exactly.
I'm so ready for this. Let's do it.
So Kyle, we are back. What are you thinking?
I just don't see how they are going to get out of this because they are approaching nighttime. They're stuck out in the wilderness. They're miles away from any help. I think they're toast. I think they're going to be dinner for someone.
Yeah. Well, Alistair, he's there. He's bleeding out. He thinks he's about to get eaten. And then you've got Clive, Brenda, and Arthur and Faye. They're standing on the bank with the water now past their knees.
Yeah, I don't really have that much sympathy for Brenda. I'm sorry, I don't. She tried to kill her daughter. But the others, yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, okay. So what's going to happen? Well, night has now fallen. And that means the crocodiles, they're going to make their way into the water. The moon is almost full and it's bright enough to light up Clive and Brenda, etc., in the water.
They're sitting ducks, basically.
Exactly. But then all of a sudden, Arthur spots something floating downstream. It's not a branch. It's not a piece of wood.
I don't know why you're keeping us in suspense here. A crocodile.
No, it's blue.
Huh?
Remember Phil Longden from our first group who got his leg, it was almost ripped off?
Ah, the paddle!
The paddle, yes, because after Phil's hippo attack, he had lost his paddle to the river and he watched it drift away.
But that was a couple of days ago.
Exactly. It's taken 125 miles over 2 days for that paddle to make its way downstream to where this group of tourists were in trouble.
Okay, but the question is, how the hell is that going to even help?
Arthur waded out and grabbed the paddle before it could slip past. And everyone in the sandbar celebrated because they've got some kind of weapon. They can use this against the crocodile.
Smack them on the head, or if they can, get them down into their jugular and smack their little kind of lung thing
flap
at the back of the throat.
Whack-a-mole. That's what they're going to be doing in the water.
Really? Who knew all you needed was just a paddle?
To be honest, it's not really this great defense against a crocodile.
But it's better than nothing.
They can at least swing and hopefully hit one or two.
Okay.
That's their plan. So they stand in a circle, back to back, facing outward. So anytime they spotted a crocodile, they'd rotate so Arthur could swing at it with the paddle and try and scare it off with a loud slap against the water. And if that didn't work, swing it and hit it on the nose.
Okay, so is that the plan or is that physically what's happening at this point?
That is what's happening. That's the plan and that's what they put into motion.
Okay, so the crocs are coming for them.
Yeah, and it's not a sophisticated strategy by any means. But that is literally the best that they can do at this moment in
And
time.
effective, because I've seen people who work like in crocodile enclosures or sanctuaries where they go out to do some cleaning of the pond that they're living in. And if they want any of the crocodiles to just scuttle away, all they do is they have a literal shovel and they just hit them on the nose with the shovel. And they just like dart away.
Yeah, that's enough to scare them off for a
So
little
they
bit.
really don't like that. You could try break their finger and they'll be fine. Stick your finger up their bum, they're fine.
Smack them on the nose.
They're like, oh, too far. That's my androgynous zone.
Yeah. So it's pretty bad for them. But then it's even worse for Alistair because night had fallen and he could hear the lions snarling and the hyenas cackling and the smell of his open wounds that could be luring a predator towards him. Alistair improvises, though, because he feel like he needs some kind of defense if something does approach. So he starts gathering rocks that he could use as a weapon to lunge as missiles. And so he stashes a few of these rocks, waiting for the inevitable. And sure enough, he hears something moving, grunting, heavy footsteps getting closer. His heart's pounding and he holds his breath. A massive Cape buffalo emerges from the tall grass, staring straight at him.
One of the old boys is fine. He's going to be like, do you know what, mate? I've had my calves. I've lived my life. I've raised like a family. I'm here to help you. Wise old buffalo.
You're not far off, actually.
Shut up.
So it's almost like some kind of weird fate or luck or guardian angel was looking down on this group because Alistair is a hunter and his speciality was Cape buffalo. So he'd killed hundreds of them over the years, but not with rocks, mind you. I guess he felt like he could at least potentially take on a buffalo. He knew how to.
Sure.
And the thing is, though, Cape buffalo are unpredictable. They don't need much of a reason to attack. So Alistair's now got to work out, does he attack first or does the buffalo? Well, who goes first? But the thing is, the buffalo just stands there watching him, and then slowly it takes a few steps closer and just lays down. And then Alistair thinks, this is weird. Is this buffalo trying to protect me?
So he just lays down next to him.
Lays down, and he feels like he's protecting him. He also feels a bit guilty because he's like, well, I've killed so many of you.
Yeah.
And you're here protecting me. How surreal that must have felt.
Whatever you do, Alistair, just do not mention all the buffalo you've killed. When you get into a conversation, like you can sometimes ramble a bit, just don't mention that.
Yeah,
Don't want to anger him.
The buffalo asks, what do you do for a career?
You should check my LinkedIn.
And so Alistair figures if this buffalo was on guard duty, maybe he could actually get some proper rest. So he leans back and thinks, yeah, why not? I'm just going to fall asleep. The thing is, though, if he had like a rock at that buffalo, things could have ended very differently.
Yeah,
so it's a good thing that he didn't attack first.
I agree.
Meanwhile, the others, they're not having a restful night's sleep. They're spending the whole night fighting off crocodiles with Phil's paddle. No joke, every time a croc gets too close, Arthur would slap the water and scare it off.
They've got to go to sleep at some point. They can't maintain this all night.
They do. Their strategy works. They survive the entire night just with that kind of tactic of scaring off crocodiles with that oar.
So it really is a miracle. One, they get a paddle that protects them lot. And then this buffalo, just a guardian angel, just comes along and is protecting him.
Yeah. But it wasn't easy. This was one of the longest, most miserable nights of their lives. They're freezing cold, they're soaked, they're absolutely knackered, but they are alive when the sun comes up. And then the crocs slide back into the riverbanks to warm up in the sun. So it gives them just a bit of a break from basically being petrified the entire time.
Yeah.
Alistair wakes up and the buffalo is getting up and it's heading off. So it's done its job. It's played bodyguard for the night and it's given Alistair some time to rest. Just as the buffalo leaves, Alistair hears something else, the sound of a motor. His heart jumps. There had been a boat and someone coming to rescue him.
Oh.
Alistair forced himself to stand and he hobbles back down the river, still very aware that he was in crocodile territory, and he scans the water, but nothing. So he listens harder. Maybe it was a plane or maybe it was just some hallucination from all this exhaustion. Either way, he couldn't afford to wait around. So he gathers up his pile of rocks, because you never know, they might come in handy. And he starts walking. And I guess he just felt like he needed a weapon. Hours pass, maybe 2, 3, 4 hours. He's barely conscious. He's running on fumes, but he keeps going step after step. He couldn't stop picturing the others back on the sandbar, still trapped, still waiting. So he knew that he had to get help. And then he hears this motor sound again. This time he's sure it was real. And then he also hears voices, human voices. Alistair stumbles back towards the river's edge, his heart pounding, and there it was, a boat, 2 people on board. He yells out, but nothing comes out. His voice is barely a whisper. He's too weak.
They've got laryngitis or something. It's empty.
So he switches to plan B. He raises his one good arm, because the other one's obviously weak and all flailing and stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to get the attention of these other fishermen that are on this boat. Eventually, one of them spots him, and the boat turns towards him, and they finally pull up alongside Alistair. He tries to explain what's happened, but the fishermen are like, it's okay, mate, let's just get you out of here. They lift him into the boat, and they took him to a fishing camp and immediately sent help to rescue the others, assuming, of course, they were still alive.
Mm-hmm.
When the boat shows up, Brenda, Clive, Faye, and Arthur were overwhelmed with relief and even more stunned to find out that Alistair had actually survived the crocodile attack.
This whole time, they were just like, he's probably been eaten.
So the fishermen take the group to a nearby fishing camp. When they get Alistair to the camp and saw the state that he was in, everyone realized he might not make it. His injuries were brutal. But the real problem was the infection. Gangrene had already set in him.
Already?
Yeah. Didn't take long. And again, this is the thing, it's those bite wounds from the crocodile.
You said there were really loads of bacteria inside of them.
Alistair needed to get to a hospital fast, but the problem was they were in the middle of nowhere and it took a few hours for a rescue plane to arrive. When it finally showed up, they loaded Alistair onto a stretcher to get him on board. But then the plane wouldn't start.
Oh no, they need a paddle.
These guys are having the worst luck. So now they had to send for another plane, which meant waiting another couple of hours. Meanwhile, Alistair is on death's door. Is he going to be able to hold out much longer? Eventually, the replacement plane does arrive, and they manage to get Alistair to the hospital. And here's where the story takes an incredible turn, because somehow he does survive, and the doctors actually work miracles. They manage to basically repair his arm as best as they can with various surgeries, skin grafts, lots of antibiotics, and he pulls through and he gets full use of his arm pretty much back.
Wow, so no amputation or anything?
No amputation.
Wow.
Maybe, I don't know, some pain and stuff like that, but largely he's okay. He's not the only one, because Phil Longden, the tour guide from the original attack, he did survive too, but he wasn't quite as lucky. By the time he got to the hospital, doctors found he'd developed both gangrene and something called osteomyelitis.
God.
Where that's when the bone itself starts to rot.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that is nasty. So they had no choice but to amputate his leg.
Okay.
But he still survived, and he fought off a hippo. He survived septicemia and lived to tell the tale. And here's where it gets really wild, because days later, Phil had heard about the other group's story, and how they had spotted the blue paddle drifting toward them, and how it...
And he was like, can I have that paddle back, please?
Well, that's when Phil realized that was his paddle. And he's like, well, something good came of this disaster. That he's kind of speechless to know that despite his pain, he's lost his leg and everything, he still managed to help out this group of people.
That's cool. That is really cool. And what a connection as well. I guess that bonds them together forever. Not with Brenda, though. Brenda, you try to drown your daughter. Stop trying to get in there with me. I'm not interested in being your friend. I don't trust you. I just don't trust you.
Bloody Brenda. Would he go through it all again? Probably not. But I guess he had some peace knowing that despite his terrible experience, in a weird way, that he managed to save 4 strangers' lives. And yeah, that's the story of 2 insane hippo attacks connected by the same blue paddle, and has become known as the Terror on the Zambezi of 1994.
Wow. That was incredible. What an amazing coincidence. Is it a coincidence? It is a miracle, right? It must be a miracle.
Yeah, because if Phil didn't have that attack, then this group of people would have most likely died.
And the timing as well. The timing was impeccable, because in order to get that paddle, Clive needed to be in the water at that moment in time in order to grab it.
Yeah, they needed to be in that water, and it had to obviously, it took 2 days for that paddle to get to them.
And the fact that it didn't get caught up in branches, or sit along the bank, or a monkey pick it up or whatever.
Yeah, and then you had this buffalo that's guarding Alistair all night. I just think, wow.
Yeah, it goes to show that the Lion King is right. Everything is interconnected. And we're just like, it's a circle of life and everything happens for a reason and everything is in this fine balance.
I thought you were going to break into song then.
It's the circle of life.
One thing I do hope is that Alistair stopped hunting Cape buffalo, because after this, one did save his life. And I think, I would have protected them for the rest of my life.
Yeah, sure. And how ironic for that to happen is like, you've spent so much time hunting these buffalo only for it to turn out that one of them actually turns out to be your guardian angel. And I think there's something quite poetic in that.
Yeah, don't hunt.
Don't hunt unless it's conservation and that money's been reinvested in continue to protect the other animals.
Okay. Very responsible. As for Phil, though, because I did try and find out what these people have done since this attack, because it's 30 years ago. I couldn't really find a lot of information about any of these people, to be honest. But I did find a fundraising page where his sister was fundraising to get a new artificial leg for him.
Ah.
But it looked like they only made $600 out of a target of $50,000.
No.
Yeah, so it's quite an old page, but I wonder if he ever did get his false leg. So if you're listening, Phil, let us know.
Yeah, and can we still donate to get him another leg? Surely he must have got it by now, because this is 1994.
Yeah,
someone must have coughed something up.
You'd hope so.
Yeah, I would donate towards a new leg.
I'll find the link.
Yeah, for sure. Let's put it in the show notes. But yeah, just be careful. We'll only post the link if he is still looking for a leg.
Yeah. If he's already got a leg, then he's fine.
Well, that was really incredible. I really appreciate that story. It was good fun.
Cool. Should we run the outro?
Let us run the outro, Adam.
And that brings us to the end of another fascinating foray into the Compendium, an assembly of fascinating things. We hope you enjoyed the ride as much as we did.
If today's episode sparked your curiosity, then do us a favor and please follow us on your favorite podcasting app. It really makes a world of difference and helps more people like you find the show.
And for our dedicated freaks out there, don't forget, next week's episode is already waiting for you on our Patreon, completely free to access.
And also, if you want even more, you can join our Certified Freaks tier to unlock our entire archive and delve into exclusive content and get a sneak peek of what's coming next. And remember, if you are already a certified freak, send us a DM. We will send you one of our beautifully lathed keychains so we can always be near your crotch.
I feel like we should have that on the back of the keychain.
What?
Always near your crotch.
Always near your crotch. The next batch, I will get that printed on the back.
We drop new episodes every Tuesday. Until then, remember, if you ever find yourself on the Zambezi River, trust your instincts, respect the river, and if Brenda says she's not feeling the boat trip, listen to Bloody Brenda.
Oh, we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Stop by Sherwin-Williams and get 30% off select paints and stains June 13th through the 23rd. It's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Refresh your home inside and out with colors that make every space feel brand new. From cozy interiors to stunning exteriors, we've got the perfect shade for your next project. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Hey, I'm John Ashton.
And I'm Neil Michaels.
And we are the hosts of the Approach Shot, the golf-flavored podcast.
Golf-flavored? What does that mean?
It means we talk with celebrities like athletes, actors, and authors about their careers, their passions, and what sets us apart, their golf game.
Hence the golf-flavored. Got it.
Yeah, we've had terrific guests like baseball all-stars Fred Lynn, Brett Saberhagen, Dale Murphy, Chris Sabo.
And football all-pros like Dwight Freeney, Lofa Tatupu, O.J. McDuffie, Jeff Garcia.
And from TV, how about Richard Karn from Home Improvement, Donnie Most from Happy Days, Ben Higgins from The Bachelor. You get the idea.
I certainly do. We have a lot of laughs and our guests love to tell amazing stories. Join the fun by downloading an episode or 5 of The Approach Shot today.
And not today. Maybe tomorrow. Today I've got to wash my hair.
Really, John? Bragging about your full head of hair again?
Got it. You flaunt it, man.
And if you don't?
Download the Approach Shot today on Apple, Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts.